Today, size does not matter as we're going behind the scenes to learn how AI can help small teams compete with big players, the secrets to launching AI-powered products, and how creators and small businesses can avoid dumb mistakes when using AI tools. And to explain it all, we're talking to Andrew White, the Chief Growth Officer at Scade.pro, a platform that helps teams of all sizes integrate AI into their workflows and products without coding, so very useful for people like me. Andrew, we hear a lot of buzz about AI workflows these days, everywhere. Workflow here, workflow there, check out my workflow. But what are we really talking about when we say workflow? Is it just a fancy way of saying automation, or is there something else going on? If we could explain for folks, that would be an awesome way to start.
Thanks, Juan. Yeah, that's one of the things that people quite don't understand at this stage of the day in terms of the AI. But think of it as a connection between different AIs that currently exist. So let's take a simple example. You wanted to create a video, a little snippet that you throw out on the social media post, right? So for you to be able to do this, you'll need to have a proper prompt created. So you'll probably go to ChatGPT and ask, hey, ChatGPT, I want to create this video, do a prompt for me that I can then post into Midjourney. Right, everybody heard of Midjourney. It's an image creation tool, AI, which does it from different text. So it's a text to image AI. You'll take your prompt from ChatGPT, drop it into Midjourney. Midjourney will create an image for you, right? And then based on that image, you can create a video. Let's say you'll go to Kling AI or Luma, that is one of the latest, or even, hopefully being soon released, Sora from OpenAI. For you to be able to do it, one day, whenever it happens. For you to be able to do this, all you got to do is take that image that you created on Midjourney, take another prompt. So you'll go back to ChatGPT and ask, hey, ChatGPT, I want another prompt to create from that image a video, right? And then you drop that prompt with an image into one of the video creation tools, and here you go. You got the video. The thing is, if you followed me quite closely, I've already used 3 different AI models, from text creation to image creation to video creation. And I've also gone back to text creation for prompts, in between of these. So essentially, we have a flow that is connecting various AIs together. So it's a flow of ChatGPT, followed by Midjourney, followed by ChatGPT, followed by Kling AI. Okay, here is the flow of 5 different AI, 5 different nodes, or 4 different nodes that are connected. Then imagine you don't speak English. Well, many creators right now, coming out of South America, Brazil, we talk to quite a lot of guys like that are very, very creative. But, Spanish or, Portuguese is their main language. So what do you do in this case, right? You can't write a prompt in English if you need to write in English. Okay, ChatGPT understands all other languages, but imagine you wanted that just translate into an English or any other language. What you can do then is take another translator AI, which, in case in point is like DeepL, is one of those, and drop that into the flow. So instead of going, here is my input in English for ChatGPT, you say, here is my input, then it goes into DeepL, translates it in English, then it goes into ChatGPT, etc., etc. So the whole point is you can create that flow seamlessly with the tools like Scade, and also run it multiple times. So what flow really means is the connection of different AIs together that you can reuse many times over. Because if you were to repeat that process again in another video, you'll go from step to step, jumping from one AI to another. Once you've created the flow, all you got to do is put your prompt in Spanish, hit go, and you've got the video at the end.
And for full transparency, I like you wrote this example, and you're talking on content creators outside of the US, right? Because sometimes it's easy for us folks in English-speaking countries, even though I'm Argentine, so I speak Spanish. My native language is Spanish, right? But I do see there's a lot that gets ignored. And for full transparency, one of the things that I'm working on with your team that you have been kind enough to introduce is we're building a workflow. So every time we have one episode of Creativity and Robots, we can automatically create subtitles in several languages using the YouTube upload, right? So I can attest that that's a workflow that once we hit it right, it's going to be a game changer, and for me as a small creator, is the opportunity to get this content out there for a lot of markets that otherwise they don't speak English, nor they should speak, because it's great to speak your own language. And that, as a creator, independent creator, for me, it's an awesome use case, right? So speaking of use cases, where do you see, let's say, creators of all kinds utilizing a Scade as a tool that will help them get out there, get to other markets?
Right. And again, I'd like to point out here, there are many tools that will be able to input directly into Scade. And so what I've just described before, that was just, one of the examples. We see a lot of use cases in advertising, in multimedia, TV production. So again, video is very hot right now. A lot of people are trying different approaches with creating almost, full-size cartoons, movies, etc. And, AI is in that case is really helpful because you can, do the ideation process with your ChatGPT, but also once the ideas fall into place, you can then test those ideas and sort of run them through imagery or video creation. So we see a lot of that side of things developing right now. Connected to these, or sort of similar to these in respect, is the gaming industry. So gaming is really picking up on that. And a lot of, sort of up games and smaller game creators that don't have the capacity to hire, designers and hire people that can actually draw specific characters that they want, but they know what they want, right? And so the creativity is helped through these particular tools, because otherwise, if they don't have the money to, hire a proper character creator or designer, they just stuck. But in their head, they know what they want. So AI will allow them to prompt it out, describe that what they want. Then we can put it into flow, or they can do it by themselves and sort of create their characters, create their worlds, do the ideation in terms of the flow of the game. So gamers are really kind of taking up into usage of AI models right now. And it's only going to grow, right? There's no end point to this. Right now, it's just sort of baby steps that we get into. And then once the cost of it is coming down, but also the speed of it and the learning, I think the learning curve is the hardest, because people, to be able to understand how to use it, this is where, we help with, we come in and we sort of advise and like with yourself, we help to build it. But at the same time, people are learning by themselves and trying to understand, what can I do? And, it's almost endless what you can do here.
Yeah. What's your favorite use case when you're using Scade?
My personal favorite use case right now is
with the group.
Getting really amazing videos. So something, it's incredible. Before, 5 years ago, you'd have to hire a crew, get, an actor, put him on the stage, or have the lighting, also different things, including post-production and all of it, just to shoot a 10-second episode or 10-second something to put out on social media. Right now, I can literally do it within seconds. So all I got to do is say, I want a large green savanna with giraffes in it, and they're running and they're doing this, and I can taste it at the end. I mean, there's variations, and it's still a bit clunky, and it's still, but where we come to from, 6 months ago, a year ago, it's incredible. So I tend to use it a lot for my social media. I do. Also, we have an internal AI researcher, which is basically, again, I'm meeting with Juan and I want to know more about Juan. And I'm just basically doing a full-blown research on that person, just to help me understand what are we talking about. So these are the two biggest ones, but there are also very small ones that we kind of keep forgetting, almost get used to this, to be honest.
And Andrew, I know you've worked beyond Scade. You work with tons of startups, helping them grow. So I'm assuming with AI, you see a lot of these small teams versus bigger companies. And, one of the things, I tend to be very hesitant to say this AI is democratizing things, because usually, if some Altman is telling me that it's democratizing anything, it's like, no, dude, we live in different worlds. You're just extracting capital, right? But it's true that also AI allows someone like me to literally come up with a show and create a lot of content. As well, now we got Lola, our editor. So Lola, hi. But, as a small team, we can do a lot. And if I had thought about, like you said, this would have not been possible 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? So How do you think smaller teams can leverage the tool to have a fighting chance against a bigger company with deeper pockets, and a bigger, just enough capital to burn and still have a product out there versus a startup that it's like, we got this little bag of money and once it's out, it's out.
It's day and night comparable in terms of how it was before and what is possible now. The way that startups should really approach it, and somebody, a single creator, is learn the tools and try and understand your particular business case or use case that you're working on, and then try and solve it. So there's no point of trying to read on it and, understand all the theory and then see all the videos on YouTube that are there. It's not going to get you anywhere, because you will get stopped by actually trying to understand, how am I using it? And the only way to do this is jump into the waters. And this is, again, I'm trying my own trumpet here, but Scade is good for that, because you can just jump in, try different approaches, try different AIs. You don't have to pay for, multiple AIs. You just pay for one access. And that's the beauty where you would combine them together. So trying out and testing out your specific business use case, whether you're doing ideation or whether you're creating a video, or whether you want subtitles for your videos, jump in there, test it out, ask questions, find the community that are working within your space specifically. And because some people are already ahead of the game, some people are, still learning, it's a normal process. But the bigger community you create around yourself to be able to learn how it's done and what is possible, and also keep up to date with what's happening. Like literally things just say, you said it before, changing at the pace that we can compute, right? It is democratizing creativity. It is democratizing the ability to access the tools, 100%. And we are, at the pinpoint right now. If you think of 90s and sort of 1997, 98, where creating a website was like a massive job, right? So you had to hire a developer, a front-end developer, a back-end developer, HTML developer. You had to write code. You had to create all the imagery. Mm-hmm. That was hefty and costly, not very costly, sorry. We now live in the age where you can go to Wix, you can go to Webflow and create a website within a couple of days by just learning it on YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. That's how we went from there to here. The same is happening right now with creativity and sort of the production processes. AIs will give you that tool that you can do very quickly. The difference being between now and then is the speed of development is 100-fold, not even 10-fold, like 100-fold. It's not going to take us 20 years to get to what Sam is talking about, 1 billion person company, one-person company. It's going to take us 2 or 3 years, maybe even less than that, because we're just seeing these jumps that are quite...
Yeah. I mean, in a way, Sam Altman is now that billion-dollar company he was talking about, because everybody else quits. I think he fulfilled his own prophecy.
Well, I guess, yeah.
You do mention, one of the things you mentioned before, it just came out, is this education, right? And the learning curve. Because I'm sure for you and for folks that are more technically inclined, it's not as much of a challenge, or you already have like a way of approaching something new where it gets easier to learn about a new tool. But in my conversations with creatives, many times there's this hesitance, or this fear. I mean, even me, and I talk to folks like you all the time, and still when I hear code, I'm just trying to learn a little bit about that. But it's, it's something that can get very overwhelming. What tools do you guys have for a tool like Scade, which again is connecting nodes, is connecting different models. And once you figure it out, it makes a lot of sense, right? But to get from nothing to figure it out, there's a little bit of a road in the middle. So how do you help folks who are not technically inclined, who just, like you said, they just want to create videos? How do you get them on board for a tool like Scade?
Don't take me wrong. It's not easy peasy, switch off the button and then go for it. I totally agree. There's a learning curve to this. Once you go that path, it becomes very, very easy. And I think getting into the knowledge and ability to understand happens from people that are already doing something and building. So again, talk to folks within the community. We have our own community on Scade where you can just go in and ask questions. and always think of the way you would perform the same process with other tools, right? So if I think of, okay, I need to write a blog post, or I need to write lots of blog posts, my first thing would be is go and find a writer, right? So what does the writer do? He will come to you and say, okay, give me the ideas you want to write about, give me the topics, give me the relevant keywords, understand. So this is already the process that is building up, right? It's a normal setup that you would do. Then the writer will write it, and then you'll come back and say, okay, well, I like that part and I like that part. So you'll do a bit of editing, go back to the writer, and sort of, this is your iteration process, right? So in this simple example, you already have a flow from researching on keywords to understanding what the topics are relevant, researching your potentially competitors, then finding the copywriter, doing the editing and iteration on the text, right? So here is the flow. Once you understand how the process works in reality, you then can relay onto the what we call agents or the AIs that you're using. And that would be doing the research. So research can be done through Perplexity tools, through other tools that you're using for, Google search, etc. You can then find an AI that will do that for you. Again, we have, for example, Perplexity and Scade. You can just drop that node, put the inputs in there, and it will start researching for you and giving you the outputs. Then you would take that output, and as a normal, you'll take the research and put it into, you give it to a professional, or you put it in the ChatGPT, say, hey, ChatGPT, come up with 10 topics for writing a blog for me, right? So here is another AI that you can connect. Then the same ChatGPT will start writing the certain things. And then you start putting extra writing in terms of the ChatGPT's nodes to be able to iterate and understand. The next step is, I need images for my blog post, right? How do I get images? You go into the stock image website and download some images that are relevant to this text. But we can create images now. You don't have to have the stock images. You can create them. So it's, again, another step that you would say, okay, well, I need to prompt for this specific text to create this sort of image. And here is my prompt. You create the prompt in ChatGPT, put it in Midjourney, it creates you an image. And so here is where we went from offline to online. So from the process that you'd have in your normal life, build that process first, understand, on a piece of paper, how does that work? What are the steps? And then you relay those steps in AI. Some steps cannot be replaced. I don't know. There's a very specific retouching that I have to do personally because I'm a creator and the designer, and these are my colors I want to add that touch manually. Fine. Get that image done on AI, download it, put it in Canva, update what you need to do, put it back into AI so you can put the image into the text. So it's the process that you almost need to go through once or twice. Once you understand it, it becomes easier.
And Andrew, I love that you mentioned the knowing your why, right? Because I think one of the mistakes that we see, now I'm going to ask you about it, but it's, many times I think if you don't understand what you're ultimately trying to do, you're not going to have a great I would say you're still going to be able to do stuff with AI, right? But it's going to be like very generic, revolutionizing, how AI is revolutionizing content creation kind of content, the things that and I think people are already tuning out to that kind of content. So what do you see as the biggest challenge, right? Or the usual, like the big mistake folks, whether it's a company, whether it's a creator, are making, and that definitely you would love folks to be aware of this so they can have the best possible experience using the tool?
I think genuinely people try and do all at once, and sort of they say, well, I've got this to solve. Let's just solve it all at once. And that's where it becomes hard, because you almost have an insurmountable task to be able to put it and connect it all together. So I love the startup approach with anything, really, within my life overall. But just generally speaking, you take a big thing, chunk it down into smaller parts and say, okay, well, how can I solve that small part first? So, again, if you go back to creating a video is a big task. If you think about it, you got to understand the way the models work, what different models do, etc. But for you to be able to do that, you'll first need to understand, okay, what the video is going to be about. So kind of go to the very basic starting point, get that started. And so by doing this, you'll learn the first steps of implementing your AI into your process, understanding what works for you. how all that is connected. You might learn something extra. And then once you've done that step, let's say I created a scenario for my video, you then take it to the next step and say, okay, well, now I need to do images for that scenario. Let me solve that problem. So instead of trying solve everything at once, try and chunk it down, go small. And so that's where people a lot of times fail. They don't understand that the big process always is solved by the smaller chunks. And then they get overwhelmed. They get overwhelmed. They're like, oh, this is way too much. It's too much to learn. I can't really process all that at once. It's going to take me 4 months to get there. And so no results lead to, diminished motivation. And then you're like, okay, well, I better just keep on doing what I'm doing right now.
So I'm sure that you hear lots of stories from customers, right? By using Scade, you'll hear these challenges, like you're saying, folks getting overwhelmed because I tried to do everything at once and it didn't go my way. So now I'm like, this is not for me, maybe I'm not smart enough. You also probably seen a lot of things. So I'm assuming you don't get surprised as much anymore about the kind of applications, but has there been anything where you have been like, damn, I didn't even know you could do this, or this is a great way of using the tool that I had not thought about?
So I think you got two questions in one, right? Where
yeah, I made a mistake. You shouldn't do as a creative.
That's okay. But I'm just saying, I'm going to try and answer these questions separately. So you've got the customers that are talking about the wows and understanding what can be done with the tool. We talked to quite a few customers and try and understand their use cases, as well as figuring out what works for them and what can we offer in terms of our support, but also extra capacity that they can use. And one of the biggest things is the speed of work, or sort of the optimization of work they can do. What they used to do. So I spoke to a couple of guys that were in ad creation and in a very creative way of doing different ads for companies and for brands. And their process is, 4 months, 3 to 4 months. What we are able to do is shrink it down to a month or even more, depending on, what their setup is and what are requirements. And I think this is the biggest benefit here is once you've created what you need to use it, then your process is repetitive. So once you've done the machine and it's already churning what you need, you'll need to, adjust it and, create certain little things. But generally speaking, it's already there. So your production cost is, going 10x down, your speed of creation going 10x down. And obviously, you don't need as big a capacity. You don't need as many people. And then so that helps with diminishing the process that before you thought were impossible. So we hear that a lot from our customers is we are able to reduce the cost and increase the speed of the production of whatever business case they have. I think that's important. Now, what's making me wow is, I guess, not so much the new things, but it's whenever I just have a chance and just look back and like, okay, what we were 6 months ago, I'm like, wow. So it's simply if you compare it to what you used to be able to create with DALL-E on ChatGPT in terms of images and what we were able to do now, is like, this is a big wow for me. And I think it's just going to extend that wow to much bigger size, because we're just getting closer to real images, production, ability to create something that it wasn't possible before. I think that's probably the biggest one. There were always, moments in each time I see, oh, there's a new, Flux was like, for me, it was a big revelation. If you've never used different models, compare different models, you have in image creation, you have models like DALL-E and Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, but then Flux came out, and one of the biggest wows for me was Flux can actually write text on the images. That was always very difficult. So think of, I need a post where I'd have some branding name on it or some text directly on it. Before you could do this, and we're talking like last month, Flux came up, and I think DALL-E is catching up as well. Is now you are able to have proper written text, and from human perspective, it's like, well, what is it there? It's pretty simple. It's like letters and numbers. That's all you got to do is just put them together, and that's you got a text. But if you think the way the machine works and AI works, is it cannot really understand text. It understands, it sort of like creates it out of little grains. If you think of like the crystal grows, it grows into, if you've seen those, videos that just go from like 0 to 100 very quickly, and like the tree grows, it doesn't have a specific root to grow. It just grows as it grows. And that's what AI do. They create images out of these little crystals. They put them together and they create it. So text is a very, very difficult task for it. But we've just had it with Flock. So that was a wow moment. I'm like, hey, we can just, create images now with my brand names or with whatever I want on the background. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And again, I try to keep a healthy skepticism, because we do hear so much about the promise of tomorrow, from many apps. And then maybe when you say, okay, but what can I do for me today? I don't care about 10 years from now. I care about like today, because I have a delivery in 2 weeks. And if this can help me, that would be awesome. Anyway,
no, let me actually just jump in here. I think you're absolutely right. I'm absolutely practical like you are in terms of understanding how does it help me today? What can I solve today? And, you brought up the blogging side of things. This is a big story here. Is, before it took ages for us to create context and content together. Now we can do this at a snap of fingers or pretty fast. And I love doing practical stuff, because at the end of the day, if it's all fluffy and out there in the future, which is also an important part to look at, it's still kind of unreachable, and you almost like don't relate it to your daily life. But when it's here and now and you can solve, your problems directly, that's what I'm trying to do for my customers. It's not, to tell them, hey, AI will be your companion in the future and you can tell it whatever you want. It'll book a robot taxi from Tesla for you and whatever, right? Yeah, but that's like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever the timeline. But I'm trying to help our customers solve their problems today. And that's what I'm trying to understand is what is the problem that we can solve. And then we just figure out the tools, and then if the tools are not useful enough for that particular problem, we'll work the solution to make it work for them. So that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing me back, because actually, so you were talking about like, okay, yeah, that's why we were going there, right? And I like what you're bringing up, because as creatives, many times we hear it'll write for you, and it's like, well, but this is what I actually enjoy from the process. I want to be writing. I don't want to be like coding. What I enjoy is sharing what I have in my head with the world, and hopefully that resonates with more people, right? But if a tool could do, and they exist, but if I can get the tool to do a keyword research for me, I'll gladly hand that over, because it's the part I hate about what I do. Keyword research, anything involving a spreadsheet, if I can outsource it, I will, right? So that's when it comes very useful. Now, a lot of the audience here learns a lot more by doing, right? And we'll have B-roll doing here, showing them Scade. But I believe the best way for them to get in there and actually understand what it can do for them, like we said, today, not 5 years from now, because as far as I'm concerned, we don't even know if we're going to be here 5 years from now. But like today, what can we do for them so they get playing with Scade and see what's possible for them and how it could help them?
Sure. Scade is a platform that is accessible to anyone. Scade.pro, just go there, register. You get a free version with 50 credits. But because, Juan is a good friend, and I really want to do something for your listeners and your audience, we're offering special codes today for your 1,000 credit option, which is available directly on Scade. So just go in, register, type robots with the S at the end. It's ROBOTS. When you do the checkout, it'll give you a full discount and you'll be able to use it. So 1,000 credits will give you a lot of space and time to test out things, right? So just like I said, take your business case, understand what you can do, think of the process that is currently being done without AI or with some AI, and then just replicate that process directly on the platform. So search, if once you go there, you'll find different AI's panels where you can just search by specific AI, or you can search by, let's say, video or text generation or prompt generation. So all that is available. Drop it in the canvas, connect them together. Any questions? Drop it into the support. Any questions for bigger things like, how do I build that? Or, help me build this. Our community is available. Just go to community.scade.pro There's plenty of prompt engineers. We have our team also, answering questions there. So if there's any questions that they have, they can use it. So this is the best way to test it out and try it out. Like I said, take that promo code robots with a S at the end and use it. I'd love to hear your stories. And I think this is the best feedback. So if you want to drop me a line at andrew.white@Scade.pro, just to understand what are you guys building, how are you building it. I always do customer research and I always speak to my customers, on a weekly basis to see what can we bring and what helps them. But also the very interesting stories or use cases. Yeah, I'd love to hear it, and we sometimes, feature those out as well. So by all means, feel free to use it.
Yeah, and I can vouch for, first of all, this code robots, exactly as you see writing up here. I'm not getting a commission, anything. I don't care. I just want, people trying the app, and then if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, But one thing that you mentioned, I appreciate that, is like,
if it doesn't work, then write to me even more, right? If it doesn't work, then you got my email, just write to me. Otherwise, so I can fix it.
Yeah. But one thing you brought up that I really appreciate is that you tell folks, like playing there, but also there's a community, so you can actually set up yourself for success, right? Like knowing your why, understanding, okay, I'm going to try this. Because again, for some people, it'll be easy, but also for some folks, it might be a tool that can get intimidating. But once you play a little bit, it all starts making sense. I can vouch from my experience as someone that had not creating workflows and notes. And I remember one thing I want to highlight is that I think you actually sent an email like, hey, how's the experience? I was like, well, actually, this is a thing that I want to create. And we were on a call right away. So it's kind of exciting to me, to get to see how also the tool grows, and talk to people like you and like work together. This is one of the things that for me is the great thing about this whole AI thing. There are bad sides, there are terrible things going on, but also there are great things like the community, right? What I've experienced so far reminds me a lot of punk rock back in the day, people sharing knowledge, helping each other, like really being interested. I see this a lot in LA. So I think folks, we don't know, maybe 2 years from now, you're going to be too busy, but like right now, it's a great time to try the tool, because one thing that I really appreciated is how responsive you guys were, and how excited you were. Like I felt like we were all part of the same team trying to build that, and you guys were as excited as I was to get this subtitle thing done, which again, for me,
but
I'm involved because you guys did your homework, right? I need to sit down, figure the end, and hopefully everybody that is listening to creativity and robots will be able to see 20 different subtitles shortly.
Awesome. That's again, and we're all about bringing this community up and helping creators to deliver something that they couldn't done before. We've just had a registration from a customer that is working with people with disabilities and sort of side disabilities, etc. And so he is building a tool that is helping somebody, do better, right? And then that's kind of one of those little underlying things that we're really, really eager to hear more and help more with. Is, somebody, I don't know where, can become a very good creator just because he didn't have or she didn't have the tools before, and now they do. And that's what we want to bring into the community. We want to bring the tools and democratize AI. That's what you said before, is give this ability to people to earn with Scade, make money out of it, as well as, solve their specific issues and problems. And I think as a last, well, I don't know, we have the last thought, but like as another thought that I would add is get on it now. Because if you're not on it today, not Scade specifically, but just, the actual ability to create with AI, you're going to be way, way, way behind in 6 months' time and a year. We've been saying this for the last 6 months' time, but it's accelerating so fast. You really want to get on it right away.
And that's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast, right? My mission is to get as many people educated about AI, whether they hate it, whether they fully drank the Kool-Aid. Personally, I'm sort of in the middle, always keeping healthy skepticism, but also I'm super excited about the technology because I can attest it's changed my life and the amount of things I can get done, and also the free time I have to think about projects like this, because all my time is not with my clients right now. I actually dedicate half of my week just to thinking about the podcast, which is something that if you had told me that 2 years ago, I would have been like, nah, dude, that's not possible without hiring 5 other people to outsource things. And I cannot afford that. It's an incredible tool. So, Andrew, can we remind people, where do they go to Scade? Is it Scade?
Yeah. So go to Scade.pro, click a register button. You'll have a free version. You just register directly there. You get 50 credits. If you go to option for 1,000 credits, go to the checkout. At the checkout, just enter the code robots, as we said, and then you'll be able to use all 1,000 credits for free for the first month. Test it out, drop it, talk to the community. But yeah, Scade.pro is your place.
Remember, guys, test the tool. Free for 1 month, so also keep an eye on it, but I'm sure, personally, I like the tool a lot. So I like the workflows. I've been exploring what you guys have, and I'm like just trying to think, how many things can I outsource that I don't like, right? The ones I like, the creativity, what makes this be my thing rather than some other dude somewhere or some woman, this, it'll remain with me, but the rest, I can outsource. Probably to like Scade will help me a lot. So Andrew.
Sorry, again, one more thing,
man.
I think a big and important part, and we hear this a lot, AI is really replacing my work that I love doing. I think where we're going to come with it eventually, and then we still, sort of in the learning process of that, is the 80% of the work that is either hated or is something that is routine enough will be outsourced into the agents and AI. And the 20% of the work, especially within the creative industries, is going to stay there, right? I don't think you will be able to replace the human imagination, the ability to create things from scratch, the kind of connecting the dots that are very human. And that nobody wants to replace that. We want to replace something that takes time and effort, that you don't really put any creativity in, and where you X your creativity or 10X your creativity versus having to deal with certain tasks that you don't like, and then your creativity sort of is a very lost afterthought. So 100%, yes. It's the 80-20, your 80s, your AI is doing the routine works, and the 20s, your creativity stays there, which is actually the bigger impact, and more creative people are going to come out of the woods 100%, but I already feel that. I've already seen it. But yeah.
As those blogs that are fully written in ChatGPT love to say, this is a tool to expand your creativity, not a replacement, as you've read on every blog since March 22 or 23, can't remember anymore. But Andrew, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I really appreciate what your team is doing and how helpful they are for folks like me. And I appreciate you coming into the podcast. So anything else we want to say about Scade before we send folks their way to just start playing with it?
Thanks for having me, Juan. I think it's all been said. Just go test it out, try it out. Don't be afraid. The learning curve is there. The earlier you get on the learning curve, the better. Anything you need to, ask a question, something doesn't work, message me. I'm available. You can find me on LinkedIn, Andrew White, or you can find me on my email, andrew.white@scade.pro. I'm available. The team is available. We're happy to help, and I'd love to hear your stories. So this is something I'm really starting to collect, and I'm seeing really interesting stories come out. I want to learn what you've built with Scade. I want to understand it, and we will help you shine. We will, go out there and talk about it, because I think the community, like Juan's and, all the other creative communities, is really where the big work is happening right now. It's not the corporations. The corporations are still actually lagging behind, and you're the guys that are going to be, building the next generation.
Yeah, I do have this theory that eventually, creators will become the agency, because there's so much fluff that as you work with companies, you see it's not needed and makes the process, and agencies, I believe they'll exist forever, but I do think they're going to have to that, because creators, especially folks that tend to be very resourceful with many things, will take over. I'm seeing it myself. So,
exactly.
Andrew, I appreciate you reaching out to the folks watching this. Thank you for watching another episode and coming with me today from England. So that's why you're seeing all these weird background instead of the usual one. But yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, people watching. And I'll see you all next week. Have a good one.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Amo la creación en mi pantalla, bits y bytes en danza, todo brilla, cada código que escribo canta. sabor a cumbia.